one of the most notorious psychological studies took place at Stanford University. Some students were assigned to be guards, while others were assigned to be prisoners. This was all led by a professor named Dr. Zimbardo. A lot of sketchy stuff took place in the way that the prisoners were treated, which I guess is essentially the whole idea of the experiment. But the people involved in the study are now saying that they're questioning Dr. Zimbardo's motives, and that this is a lot more sinister than we've been made to believe. Let me know what you think about this in the comments.
Oh my god!
What are you doing?
She's just violent. This bitch is violent. Also, oh my god. Alright, stop.
Up against the wall, up against the wall.
Stand up and attack me.
Get up against the wall.
No, you're standing up and attack me. You need to do something.
Okay, don't leave.
I'm leaving.
If you leave, you're done.
She can't press charges. Get me the fuck out of here. I said I'm not gonna do fucking putting in. Brianna, come in front of me. Oh, it makes me smell this. Oh god, it smells so bad. I'm dying.
The year is 1971. Stanford University builds a fake prison, gives students roles, and has to shut it down early because human beings psychologically fall apart. Science learned a lesson that day, a famous one at that. They teach it in every Psych 101 class on Earth. Anyway, this weekend, somebody rebuilt it with a cash prize and a dominatrix on stream. Welcome back to the Clout Report, where clout gets counted. And today, unfortunately, audited again. Second IRL streaming story this week. The industry is really keeping me employed at this point. So here's the deal. A 24-hour all-women prison competition stream hosted by NerdBallerTV. Orange jumpsuits, a purpose-built detention center, authority figures giving orders, endurance challenges, and the prize, $10,000. $10,000. Split the difference on 24 hours of that, and you're at roughly $416 an hour to have your dignity used as set decoration. The stream was also tied into Amouranth's house Downbad content universe because, of course, it was. Everything in this corner of the internet is connected like a conspiracy board. Then came the segment everyone's talking about. A dominatrix enters, makes a contestant kneel, and strikes her repeatedly with a whip. Shortly after, a clip spreads of another contestant visibly breaking down. Real distress, not contestant distress, and the stream reportedly got shut down. DramaAlert posts asking, are they going too far? It's sitting at 5.6 million views. So at least we're asking the question after, always after. And listen, I want to be fair to the producers who I'm sure did a ton of research. For instance, they clearly heard of the Stanford Prison Experiment, famous for being shut down early because fake prisons break real brains, and thought, great concept, needed a bigger budget. The experiment that literally the textbook example of do not do this became the treatment for a Kick original. Incredible work. The syllabus was right there. And the defense, the women consented. That's it. They're getting paid, sure. Consent is real, and grown women can make grown decisions. I'm not taking that from anybody, but here's my tiny little footnote here. Consent to a competition is not consent to whatever escalates once the numbers dip. Nobody signs up for the breakdown. The breakdown is what happens when producers keep turning the dial because the chat got boring. That dial always turns in one direction. Funny how it never escalates toward more water breaks. And the audience, oh, we're innocent. 5.6 million views. The outrage clip is the content. The machine doesn't care if you're watching and discuss. Discuss watch time pays the same as fan watch time. Everybody in the story got what they wanted except the woman crying on the floor. And look, I'm not like trying to like preach from a balcony or anything like that, but let me tell you about a time I found my price tag. And some of you may know, I'm sure most don't, but I was a bouncer for like years of my life. And I've seen 2 consenting adults at times try to harm each other. We'll say that. At least attempt, right? And I have a choice. I've had choices on several occasions, more than I can count at this point, where I can turn a blind eye, or I can say, hey, this is not okay. Now, these are 2 consenting adults. So I don't think it's so much about the consent as it is to abandon my morals as a person, to stand by and watch that. Or even if I don't stand by, I know what's happening. And it's not that 2 people didn't decide to engage in some fisticuffs, but to what end? What end? How long do I let it go before I say, okay, that's enough? You know, so I think that we all have our boundaries and we all have our morals, and to abandon those because of what the group thinks is irresponsible, for one, and it's weak. It's weak. If you have morals and you have them for a reason, you can't let somebody else take that from you. That's just my belief. If you believe right is right for a reason and wrong is wrong for a reason, then you stand on that. And that's that. So as far as standing by watching, even if you're not the person, to know that you stood by and watched somebody else treat somebody else like that, you know, maybe you aren't like criminally liable, but you're definitely part of the problem. You're not part of the solution. I mean, anybody can say, hey, this is not okay. We need to get out of here. Or, you know what, somebody's wrong for this. So, you know, and that's the thing about, you know, they consented. You know, they did consent. I consented too. You know, right up until the moment I realized, you know, what I consented to. And that moment doesn't show up until you're already in a jumpsuit. Or you might feel like, hey, if I don't do something, somebody else is going to be in a jumpsuit or worse. But zoom out with me for a minute. This week with the IRL streaming, a golf cart ran over a woman at a parade for content. A prison broke a contestant on camera for content. 2 platforms, 0 statements, and the same lesson both times. The incentive structure has no brakes, only accelerators. The Stanford experiment needed 6 days to fall apart. Streaming did it twice in 1 week. We're getting more efficient at the wrong thing. And Kick, buddy, at some point, we're the free speech platform as to coexist with everybody on our payroll should watch these streams before the apology tweet. Radical idea. I'll invoice you. The count, $10,000, 5.6 million views, one whip, one breakdown, zero accountability, and a 55-year-old psychology experiment that apparently explained all of this before most of these streamers were even born. History doesn't repeat itself. It just gets a subathon. The real question is paid consent enough when producers control the escalation? Should platforms require welfare checks on endurance format streams the way real productions require them? And the uncomfortable one, if the breakdown clip crossed your timeline, did you keep scrolling or did you press play? Be honest in the comments. Respect the names of the women involved. The jokes are for the producers. Is that cool? We clear? Once again, this is the Clout Report where clout gets counted. Somebody got to count it. Please like, please share, please subscribe. Take care of yourself. Peace.